Just doing a dry fit here in the bus, and it's looking really great. Want to see how we did this? Watch the rest of today's vlog. So for the backing, I've decided that I'm not going to use these slats. It makes it complicated to do the tufting. So I'm actually cutting some thin wood and putting it in here in its place so that I can put the holes in the diamond tuft pattern, and it makes it easier to staple it too. This is going to be the pattern then. They are going to be 9-inch tall by 6-inch wide diamonds.
Big Kitty, it's such a cliche right now. Get that yarn. Maybe get that yarn ball. Oh, thank God, it's really cute.
So I've got this all mapped out now. One thing that I needed to account for was the thickness of the cushion so that you can still see that diamond pattern across the middle of the seat back, which meant I actually had to offset it so it's all a bit higher. Otherwise those diamonds would have dipped below the cushions and it would have looked weird. This just gives it a nice sort of symmetrical look. So next step is to drill all the holes through there, and then I can start attaching the foam and mapping it out on the foam, and then we can start mapping it out on the leather. Just laying out the buttons. It's gonna look really awesome. Super excited. Here's my foam, and I'm just gluing it down to this platform. Then I'm gonna flip everything over and put holes through the bottom. That looked like I just gave you the finger. Put holes through the bottom to mark out on the top, the same pattern. And then I actually have to cut a little bit rounder holes about the same size as the buttons to get them ready for the tufting. And then I have to cover with batting. I got some very big upholstery needles. This isn't even the biggest one. I use them for some of my shoemaking stuff, so they're coming in handy. So an idea I came up with to map out the holes through the foam more accurately was to actually put tape on the front of the foam. I flipped the whole thing over and then I stabbed this through as straight as I could. And then I marked where the holes came through on the tape. And now I'm gonna peel the tape off, and that should be my pattern. I'll measure it out just to make sure. Okay, measured it out, and everything should be 6 inches apart, which is what I'm seeing here. So that actually worked pretty good. So now I have to cut about 1-inch holes into the foam straight down to get the foam out of the way so that the buttons will actually sink down into it. Necessity is the mother of invention. I didn't have a tool to bore out a hole in the foam, but what I did have was this little 3/4 inch punch, which is the same width as the buttons. And then this is a burnishing, an edge burnisher for leather, but I super glued that to the top, and then I spray it with vegetable oil for no friction, and then I can actually bore into the hole and twist, and voila! That works perfectly, and if you can see, it lines up with the hole on the other side. So I just have to do that like 25 times and I'm good. Worked like a charm, yes. Okay, I've got the batting on, so I just need to poke through the holes, so I'll have to kind of feel my way around that. And there you have it. It almost looks like I know what I'm doing, but I don't. It's just swinging it. So one of the things I'm doing is cutting slits, as you can see, along all the bottom and outer, and that way that the tufting will fold into it nice and kind of have a deep look to it. So you can see I've got all the grooves cut in now. Got a lot of leather to bunch inside the groove and just give it a nice deep rich look. Thanks Joy for the tip. You can see where I've marked the leather now. I've got it all cut out. All those crosses are where the needle needs to come through to go through the corresponding holes. And I had to account for extra fabric being needed for each hole because there's going to be some tufting. So. All right, mid-tufting update. Essentially what we want are these nice folds in here, and those are gonna go into those cuts that I made. And then I fold in the excess into a diamond pattern between each of these buttons, and that's gonna give us that really nice classic tufted look. All right, I'm gonna take a little coffee break, but I just wanted to show you the progress. You can see how as you work the leather out to the edges and around, you can start to tuck it in and fold and create these really beautiful diamonds. That's when it's not been worked out, obviously, but this is really turning out great. I'm super happy with it.
All right, making curtains still. Curtain factory up in here.
Very exciting. Upholstery tacks. It's gonna look really sharp. All right, the back is done, all tufted, and it looks rad. I just have to do the back side here, which will have sort of a black fabric. You can see how I did all my staples to hold in the tuft buttons. You do sort of this end pattern, and then I always tie a knot off at the end, and that seems to hold it really well. So I'm just stretching the backing fabric over this, and through my many years of art school and stretching canvases for paintings, you start in your centers, like that, and then you actually work your way out to the corners and you'll get a nice stretch, and you won't have any bunching either. Just a little tip. And voila, it's all stretched. Okay, so now I've got the bottom piece that the cushions sit on. This is the piece that lifts up and shows the water tank. Same style, I stretched it just kind of like a canvas, but the cushions will sit on it, like so. So that can get installed now.
Oh, I'm just gonna tuck the kitty in. There you go, kitty, have a good sleep.
Okay, couch is starting to take shape and it's looking amazing. It looks so good in here. I'm just gonna work on this little front panel measurement off of this board here now. And then I can bring that home and tuft the front of that with some upholstery tacks for some decoration. And then just the sides and the top. And it's gonna look great. So that kind of gives you an idea of the curtains in here on these brass rods. It's gonna hang sort of like that. We'll have tie backs and stuff like that, so it'll look pretty cool, but digging the colors and the scheme of everything, it's looking pretty good. So one of the other things that I worked on, which was actually the day that I sprained my ankle and fell into the dog shit, was this counter. We redid it. I was carrying the table, which was a butcher block desk from IKEA, and then that's when that happened. Anyways, I cut it up and we made it how we wanted for the counter. As you can see, we have the hole here for the sink, and then this piece actually lifts up, showing the stove. So it hasn't been mounted yet, and I'm actually taking the pieces home now so that I can stain them sort of that nice deep cherry dark wood color. And also I'm gonna drill a hole for the faucet here. This is what it's gonna look like with the faucet that we got. It's a simple all-in-one faucet, and you'll just lift up that piece of wood, and voila, there's the sink. So I still have to attach the sink and install the faucet, but gotta stain and prepare all the wood first. We may even do an epoxy resin on the surface. That bright light. Okay, just staining the countertop. This is probably the last thing I do tonight. I'm just gonna do this one side, putting a few coats on. The stain that we got is a bit different, so I'm just trying to match it up. It's pretty close though. This one is called Red Mahogany. Looks good. All right, everybody, that is the end of the day. Just a bunch of planning and tufting and sewing and stitching and pulling and all that stuff. So until tomorrow, good night.